Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Saksham and I'm a threat detection engineer. Today I'm starting a new YouTube video series where we'll be going through a set of steps to build our own threat detection lab. We'll be configuring a lot of different security tools into this lab environment and we'll keep it growing. But before we do so, let us go through the architecture diagram. As you can see on the screen, we have three virtual machines lined up. One of them is Windows box, one of them is Firewall, and the third one is a Linux based logging server. It could be Ubuntu based desktop or a server, whatever feels comfortable with you. We'll be using VMware Workstation Pro for doing this, and since Broadcom has released personal usage license for VMware Workstation Pro, I highly recommend that all of you also go ahead and try VMware. It has a lot of great capabilities, and the performance is really good as compared to other hypervisors. Uh, so we can see that there are three boxes, and we'll be using VMware, and there will be a lot of security tools that we'll be installing on this Windows box. We'll be using Firewall to isolate the network and also control the containment of the malware, right? Because there will be a lot of malicious use cases, samples that we will be running on this Windows virtual box, and they might try to escape or laterally move into other devices. So this firewall will come in handy where we will be restricting the network. Through this firewall, we'll have an internet routing to this Windows box, so we have absolute control on what's going in and what's going out. And then we'll try to add on more community based tools such as Tines for SOAR and Jira for case management. You can also go ahead and add more virtual machines such as Kali and Linux boxes for emulation of threats. But for the course of this series, I'll keep this short and minimal, and we'll just use three of these virtual machines. So we'll get started. The first box that we'll set up is the firewall, and we are using OpnSense for it. So you can download the installer for OpnSense by going to this URL opnsense.org/download. Select the architecture type. You only have one option, and also select the image type to be DVD. A DVD is an ISO installer image with live system capabilities running in VGA mode. So we do get a VGA for installation process. Select a mirror location and click on download. It would start the download process for you. You would get a BZ2 file, right? A BZ2 file is basically compressed file. What is a compressed file is the ISO is actually compressed into a smaller or packed into a smaller size. So you would need an archiver to get the actual ISO file. I highly recommend that you use 7-zip file manager for this. I'm not going to go ahead and download this file again. I already have the ISO with me. So I'll just quickly plug in this ISO into a virtual machine. We'll start by firing up the Workstation Pro 17. I have a blank folder called Threat Detection Lab here, and there are no VMs inside it, right? So we'll create our first virtual machine inside this. We'll right click, select new virtual machine, typical, and we'll select the ISO, right? So the ISO that I've got is OpnSense 24.1 DVD. Click on this. The operating system detected is FreeBSD version 10, which is correct. You click on next. We'll just rename it to be Firewall. OpnSense. On next. Okay, already exists. Let's rename it. OpnSense TTR. So 20 GB of disk space is more than enough because this is a firewall and it is not storing a lot of data. It's just routing the network traffic. So we'll leave it as it is. We'll customize the hardware and we'll add some more RAM. We'll add at least 1 GB of RAM, although 2 GB is what OpnSense recommends. But for the sake of our usage, 1 GB is more than sufficient. We'll leave the processor to 1. We'll leave the network, or actually we'll change the network, right? So we'll change the network from NAT to BRIST. So we have one interface where the BRIST is enabled. So we have internet connection and a separate IP address, right? We need one more network. So what we need is basically an internal network where Windows will be sitting, and that LAN or the internal network will be interfacing with the WAN over the firewall device, so that our network is routed. So we'll add one more. So we'll click on network adapter, finish. We'll put it into a custom VMnet2 host. I'll just show what is the configuration of VMnet2, but I'll just save this for now. Close, finish. Before we power it on, let me show you what is VMnet2, the network. We'll go to virtual network editor. As you can see, there is a custom network VMnet2 which is host only and has got a subnet address of 192.168.10.0, subnet mask of 24, and this is the network which I'll be using to connect all the devices that will be present on LAN side of things, and they all will route their traffic via firewall, which will also act as the router here and will connect to internet. So all of these machines on the VMnet2 will still have internet. It's just that the traffic will be routed through the firewall, so I have absolute control over what's going in, what's going out. Right, so I'll just click on cancel and we'll just power this on. We'll give it a second, let it load. I'll just pause the video and let it load first, and then I'll resume it back. So we have been greeted by the installer screen. Um, as you can see on the or the read on the screen, we need to log in with the installer account to start the installation process. We'll use the default password, which is OpnSense, right? And the installer should proceed from here. Um, we'll use UFS. It says it has only detected 1 GB of RAM. It recommends 2 GB. We'll proceed anyway. We'll select the 20 GB disk that we had attached to this virtual machine. Yes, we were sure. Now we'll let it load. I'll again pause the video. I think it will take some time. Cool. The installation process has completed. We'll just change the root password before we complete it. So we'll just keep something that we can remember. We'll just complete the installation and reboot. It's configuring interfaces. We'll let it load. I think it's going to take some time. I'll just pause the recording here. So as you can see on the screen, it has finished loading and it is prompting us to log in. So we'll log in as root and the password that we had resetted. Cool. So it has logged in and you can see there is a LAN and a WAN interface. The LAN has received an IP of 192.168.1.1, which is obviously incorrect, right? The IP on the LAN side is of subnet address 192.168.10.0. So we need to change it. But another interesting thing that you can observe is WAN has not even received an IP address, which it should have because it's on bridge side. So one of the key speculations that we can have here is the auto detection of the firewall for LAN and WAN interfaces is wrong. What I mean is EM1 is supposed to be LAN and EM0 is supposed to be WAN. So what we'll do is we'll change that. We'll select option number 1, assign interfaces. Do you want to configure lags? No. VLANs? No. Okay, it is asking us for the name of the WAN interface. So the WAN interface is EM0. Enter the LAN interface. LAN is EM1. Press enter. Proceed. Yes. Let it configure. Now you can see that the WAN has automatically received an IP via DHCP. So it is 192.168.0.175, which is absolutely perfect. Now we need to change the LAN IP. So we'll choose option number 2, set interface IP address. We will select the LAN interface to configure it. Configure IPv4 address LAN interface via DHCP. No. Enter the new LAN IPv4 address 192.168.10.1 24. For LAN, press enter for none. Okay. Configure IPv6. No. IPv6 address. No. Enter the new LAN IPv6 address. Okay. Blank. Do you want to enable DHCP server? Yes, we want to enable this because we want this interface to give IP addresses to other devices on this same network. So we'll say yes. Start address 192.168.10.5, or let's do 10. And we'll say 192.168.10.90. Want this to be the range. Restore defaults, yes. Awesome. Now we have configured the LAN and WAN IP addresses and the interfaces. So now this should be working. We'll stop this video here only and we'll continue setting up the new Linux virtual machine in the next video. Hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to comment and I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. We'll see in the next video how to set up more tools and new virtual machines and configure this firewall for rules and network. See you soon. Please do like and subscribe.